Neighbor blames me for her husband's injury, even though she lets him wander with dementia. Hey everyone. I've got a story that really shook me up and has left me flabbergasted at how entitled some people can be. I live next to a couple in their 50s. The husband has dementia, and it's really unfortunate to see him going through that. But here's where things go south. His wife, my neighbor, constantly lets him wander around unattended, often in my yard. Yesterday, I discovered him climbing on my shed in the backyard. Concerned for his safety, I immediately called my neighbor to come get him. She arrived but did nothing. Just stood there watching as her husband then jumped off the shed and hurt his leg. I thought she'd be grateful that I'd looked out for him. But instead, she called the cops, alleging that it was my fault he got hurt because it happened in my yard. She was yelling and making a huge scene, saying I should have done more to prevent the accident. The officers were pretty understanding once I explained the situation and they saw my surveillance footage. They agreed it wasn't my responsibility to supervise her husband, especially when she lets him wander without any oversight. However, the nerve of this woman, she had the audacity to blame me for an incident she could have easily prevented by just properly caring for her husband. The entitlement is just mind-blowing. Now, I'm left wondering if I should install a fence or what measures I need to take to protect myself legally, because this is beyond ridiculous. Any advice would be appreciated. You need to call Adult Protective Services immediately. This man is literally in danger. She will be filing a lawsuit against your homeowners. Save that footage. Edited to add. A fence with locks will help for the future. As others said, APS. I take care of my father with Alzheimer's. At this point, I can still let him do quite a bit. But if he were at the stage this woman's husband is at, and I just let him wander around, I deserve to have Adult Protective Services called on me. If she cannot handle taking care of him anymore, she needs to find a place for him where they can. Because he is at that stage where he is a danger to himself. I'm so glad you have cameras. Totally agree with you, Principal Gal. Adult Protective Services should be called immediately. If she's letting him wander, that's outright negligence. If she can't handle him, Adult Protective Services can connect her to local resources that are usually covered by Medicare to help. If he wanders and is displaying disinhibition, not realizing climbing your shed is bad, it's going to get much worse before it gets better, crying, and he will need management so he doesn't hurt himself worse again or hurt someone else in confusion. I wish you the best. 4-leaf clover, 4-leaf clover, 4-leaf clover. Officially notify them of trespassing and then call the police every single time it happens. Also call social services, Adult Protective Services, etc. regularly. Ensure they get a report each time there is an incident. Maybe the old guy will get the help he needs. Or at least the woman will keep him out of your hair. Call APS. He needs an in-home caregiver or a memory care facility. If not a locked fence, at least no trespassing signs. It won't stop it from happening, but it can help cover your legally. The cameras are good, but also save a text to the wife telling her to keep him off your property. Sounds like she wants him injured on your property to try and sue for insurance. Call APS immediately. You need a fence as fast as you can get one installed. Hope you are able to afford the expense. As others said, call Adult Protective Services. I'm not sure she's entitled. 50s is pretty young to be dealing with dementia. She may well be overwhelmed, denying that he is as bad as he is, and frightened. Do they have children? They both need help. I'd call Protective Services. I would do a number of things. Yes. Put up a fence and have a locked gate. In writing, tell your neighbor that you have put up the fence specifically to stop her and her husband from trespassing on your property. Further, that going forward, if you find them wandering your property, you'd be calling the police for trespassing. Yes. Do put up cameras. Yes. Do call Adult Protective Services to report this recent incident and all others going forward. Protect yourself with footage and a fence. But consider trying to protect him too, by doing as others have said, and call Adult Protective Services to at least do a wellness check. Best case scenario, maybe his wife doesn't know she can get help. Worst case, maybe they can find a safer place for him. She was looking for a payout from your homeowner's insurance. It makes me very sad thinking of a man with dementia in his 50s. Fence with secure woman isn't done by a long shot. You need to call Adult Protective Services and have them investigate. She could be very overwhelmed caring for her husband and needs help. You could build a fence as you want, but that probably won't stop him from trying to climb over it. I feel for the neighbor's husband since he clearly needs help. I, however, think his wife thought she was clever. I think she figured if she could establish that her husband got hurt on OP's property, she could sue OP for X amount of money and finally put him in a home that OP is paying for. Good fences make good neighbors. I hate to say you should go this far, but next time this happens, just call the police and trespass the poor guy. You can't be responsible if he hurts himself or someone else in the future. The hell? Are you in the US? Is she trying to find a excuse to sue or something? Definitely call the authorities. This poor man is in danger. And she can't be arsed to protect him. Someone has to. She probably wants your insurance to cover her husband's injury. Shameless. Tell her there are other ways to seek help. Scamming is not it. Now, I'm left wondering if I should install a fence. Yes. For many other reasons than this. For example, it's really hard to press a trespassing charge if there's no physical barrier, even if that barrier might only be a few inches high. But I've seen cases where no charges could be filed against a trespasser because there was literally no physical barrier. Call APS and tell them a dementia patient is being neglected by an unfit caretaker. Oh darn, you have cameras and now won't have to pay when she sues you. She was definitely in the wrong, but I know her life can't be easy. My dad had dementia and he would wander around the neighborhood and knock on doors in the middle of the night. He was combative and hard to handle. You can quickly burn out caring for someone with dementia if you're not trained to handle it. It's often easier on the family members to get a trained caregiver to help them with the individual. Perhaps you should consider suggesting a caregiver to your neighbor. Good fences make good neighbors. Call APS. She's not caring for her disabled husband and needs supervision to prevent him from getting killed. It's not your responsibility to watch him. She's awful blew it. She's looking for a payout. It must be hard for her, but she needs to accept responsibility and provide the care he needs. Report her to Adult Protective Services. She is not doing what is necessary to protect him. He is going to get hurt eventually. Install a fence ASAP. And keep those cameras working. Maybe add some more. She will sue you if he injures himself on her property. It'd be great to say she wouldn't get anywhere with that, but people get shafted in suits that are complete BS. Maybe call in an elder abuse claim on her as well. He needs to be kept safe and she is definitely not doing that. Call Adult Protective Services and get yourself a good attorney. People like that are very litigious. She's looking for a reason to sue your homeowner's insurance. I advise the OP to consider getting an umbrella liability insurance policy to protect themselves. Sounds like she's fishing for a lawsuit. I would Google APS in your area and call them. And if you can afford to, I would install a fence with a locked gate and keep it locked to lower the chances of being sued if he injures himself out there again. Fence, restraining order, trespassing charges, whatever it takes. But adult services needs to hear this first. Am I the only one that thought she stood around in order for him to get hurt so she could sue and get money out of it? If it results in his death, even better. This is elder abuse. She watched him cause harm to himself. Get a fence installed ASAP. It bites to think you have to do that. But in this case, it's a really good idea. While you are making the call to get that fencing installed, make some calls to Adult Protective Services. He can't just be left to wander around, and she's committed elder abuse if she does. It's not your job to babysit your elderly neighbor, and certainly not your job to pay for any injuries when she is supposed to be taking care of him. She could put him in a home. I'd be calling the cops any time he put a toe on my property and installing more cameras. Wouldn't be surprised if the wife has a life insurance policy on her husband. Based on what happened here, she seems like the type. Husband with catastrophic illness in his prime earning years that is going to go on 10-20 years before it kills him. And meanwhile she has to find a way to earn money while providing 24/7 care and supervision. She's desperate for a payout. All you can do is be kind and protect yourself. I spent the last 12 years as my husband's caregiver. COPD, PTSD, arthritis, disabled vet. Every morning, the first thing I did, I went and checked if he was still breathing. And yes, I had some very unlovable moments of wishing it was over for both of us. That said, I've spent the last year grieving, shocked at how much I miss him. If nothing can be done to remove him from that situation, because it sounds like he should be, for his own safety, a very tall fence is really the only thing I can suggest. One that can't be casually climbed up by someone with dementia. Really sucks that this falls on you instead of the man's wife. Hope things go well. Get a fence and call social services to get her more help. Early onset dementia is torturous for all involved. She's a scammer. Old girl was looking to get paid. Let her know that next time he or she is on your property, you'll be pressing trespassing charges. Contact Adult Protection Services, if there's one in your area. She wants her husband to die so she can collect the life insurance and be that poor widow down the block. She probably has dementia too. You know what makes the very best neighbors? Fences. Sounds like if she's looking to kill the dude, or at the very least hoping that he kills himself accidentally, her calling the cops is her way of trying to set your ass up as the fall guy. She might also be looking to get some money from you via a lawsuit if he falls and hurts himself on your property. If you can afford to put up a more secure fence to keep him out, please do so. My advice is to consult a personal injury lawyer for your location. They know those laws intimately because they sue on behalf of the injured party. They should know what kind of liability you could face and how to protect yourself. Maybe she is in the beginning stages of dementia herself. Maybe she is in the beginning stages of dementia herself. The wife also has dementia. Please call Adult Protective Services. What the wife of the man with dementia is doing is abusive because she is allowing him to hurt himself. She was trying to make some money off you, lol. She was horning in on an insurance claim against your homeowner's insurance, I bet. Maybe she wants to sue you. Keep the cameras rolling. I am sure the wife has caretaker burnout. I also suspect she has a lot of life insurance on him too. She did nothing when her husband was putting himself in danger. Then after the inevitable, she did all the drama. Please call Adult Protective Services even if you don't want to. They don't only take people away. They also provide services to assist people wanting to stay at home. Trespassing is a thing. Call the cops and ask for a wellness check on him every time he wanders into the yard. Perhaps install a fence to dissuade him from entering your dangerous yard and let the entitles 1 know you're not her husband's babysitter. Call APS. You can call social services if you think she isn't caring for him. Yes, install a fence. There has been times where a thief breaks into someone's house, gets injured because of some stupid thing they do, and they sued the homeowner for that injury. Get a fence. She is trying to get him hurt on purpose so she can sue you and hopefully get rid of him. Protect yourself. Get a fence, report her to whatever adult protective services exist if any, and possibly look into a restraining order. It can't be stated enough to save every single piece of video surveillance footage that you have. And the police reports. Especially in today's world of lawyers. And everyone wanting to sue for everything. She saw him climbing on the shed and thought she saw a perfect opportunity to sue you. Aren't you the same person that wrote the fiction about the fentanyl-laced brownies that cats were eating? Sounds like she'd be happy for sympathy. Get rid of him, or at least free money. You are not at fault, but you are liable. If she gives you a bill, just send it to your insurance and let them work it out. You can also use this as documentation to report her to social services, as she is no longer capable of caring for her husband. Forgo the fence. Build a wall and make the neighbors pay for it. That's the American way. It may be that they have really crappy insurance, and blaming you would mean he'd get decent care. The US insurance system is broken. Z. Your neighbor is probably overwhelmed. She's taking care of someone that has the mind of a toddler but the physical capabilities of an adult to get out of the house and into trouble. Her behavior was inappropriate, but maybe you can extend her some grace and kindness. It is kind of insane to me that you're asking about how it legally protect yourself and you're not even slightly concerned for him? Call APS for fuck's sake. Is her name Jill Biden? Post no trespassing signs immediately. Call Adult Protective Services and report her for elder abuse. Tall fences make good neighbors. Also get a pit bull. Call Adult Protective Services. Time to be that guy. Solar hot wire cattle fence, no trespassing sign. Fence. Definitely. And put a coil of razor wire on top. Since we already know this guy climbs. Neighbor woman was looking to sue you to bring in money to fund their lives. Count on it. Honestly, if this happened to me, I would probably say I'm glad you're here. These people are trespassing on my property when the police arrived. The nerve to call the police on you? No amount of this woman is under a lot of stress because of her husband's condition is an excuse for this. Unfortunately, liability laws being as twisted as they are, you probably could be held responsible. Build a fence. Document everything. And as mentioned before, call CPS immediately. You'll need to protect yourself. She could sue you because she's an entitled ass. I would call the police anytime you see him out and about. He could wander into the street. That way there would be numerous calls on record showing how little regard she has for him. What she's doing is criminal, and I realize she must be tired of dealing with this. Or maybe can't afford 24 care. But he does need moved to a home if she cannot watch him. I'd be afraid if you build a fence. He'd attempt to climb it anyway, and there would still be problems if he hurt himself on the fence. Install a fence. And if he comes in again, call the police. He needs to be in a facility that can take care of him. You need to save the footage and call Adult Protective Services. The wife may be desperate to get help but doesn't know who to reach out to or feel guilty that she can't take care of him. Getting him into a nursing facility may be an issue. Because my parents had private insurance, my dad needed a physical from his doctor. At that point, my mom couldn't get him into the car. She also didn't want my husband to help. It was a matter of pride for both of them. If he has early onset dementia, she has to be overwhelmed. He has dementia in his 50s. That's really young for it to start. It's only to get worse. My grandmother had dementia. It was devastating. My grandfather did an amazing job taking care of her. However, over the years, it progressed to a point where she needed to be in a full-time care facility because she was a danger to herself, as she would get up in the middle of the night without him knowing. At this point, my grandfather was 80. It sounds like he's already at this point. He is no longer safe and needs to be in a facility or have some type of professional care. Otherwise there could devastating consequences. She stood there and just watched. I'm thinking that she is letting him wander unsupervised so he does get hurt on someone's property. Her not doing anything to stop him immediately calling the police screams, I am letting him get hurt so I can get a really big insurance settlement. She wants him to be hurt on your property so she can sue you. Report the incident to Adult Protective Services. I would also call the cops every time he's left to wander in your yard unsupervised. Just like you would if you found a toddler in your yard that's unsupervised. 911. What's the emergency? My elderly neighbor with severe dementia is in my yard unsupervised, and I'm concerned he's going to hurt himself again. I need assistance. If that's the game his wife wanted to play, as messed up it as I is, you should have pressed charges for trespassing. I hope that the wife isn't looking for a payout. At the very least, you need no trespassing signs posted. I agree with Adult Protective Services. I would also have them both trespass to help protect you from liability if he injures himself on your property. I hope she doesn't try to sue you. If I were you though, I'd definitely call DCFS or whatever government agency handles elder abuse and neglect. The situation is a tragedy waiting to happen. Good luck. You might need to start calling the police to charge him with trespassing and build a fence. Your neighbor might sue you since he got injured on your property. Good fences make good neighbors. Robert Frost. The Mending Wall. Install a fence. Hey op, I'm really sorry this happened. Neighbor wife sounds awful. Consider posting about this over in our dementia. They might have some interesting perspectives to share. My great uncle had Alzheimer's and would slip out of the house and try to hitchhike into town. My great aunt had to put deadbolts on the exterior doors that requires a key for both sides. She let him do that, hoping it would either debilitate him or kill him. SMH. She just don't want to do it herself, so she's trying to pawn that off on an innocent stranger. That's her guilt talking. Call the police every single time he steps foot on your property. This could easily turn into her harassing you. Should call some form of social services. Dunno which would apply here. But that man needs help. And she sure as hell isn't giving it. It is so beyond dangerous for him to just be wandering, it seems like. And he needs help. Yes. Install a fence. She could technically try to sue you because it happened on your property and you was aware of the situation. But call Adult Protective Services on them. Restraining order to stay off of your property. I'd also look into umbrella insurance if you don't have a policy. It's not that expensive and can protect you from liability if someone gets injured on your property. I think that you should take steps to legally protect yourself. If he gets hurt on your property, you could be held liable. And this nutcase woman sounds like just the type to sue you for damages. You might want to really think about that fence. Good fences make good neighbors. She's obviously trying to use her husband's condition to entrap unsuspecting neighbors into a lawsuit. Do all the documentation and adult protection services calls stated here but also trespass them from your property and call the cops immediately when he inevitably wanders over again. Is she looking for a way to fund him being in assisted living? It sounds like she really doesn't want to deal with him anymore. I feel bad for him. If he is in his 50s and already dealing with dementia, wow. If she refuses to watch him, then you will need to protect yourself, possibly with a fence. I would also talk with law enforcement or a lawyer to see how to protect yourself. I really wonder who is looking out for his best interests. A fence is a good idea. Even though you did nothing wrong. I wouldn't be shocked if she tried to sue you for negligence and won. It has been known to happen. Sounds like he might even climb a fence though. You need to get a fence. If he hurts himself on your property, she can and will sue you for negligence since you didn't have a fence. She will get a settlement from your homeowner insurance, which is what that is for. You now own what is called an attractive nuisance. A shed. Because with dementia he's in the same legal state as a child and thus not responsible for his actions. Not a lawyer. Just a realtor for too many years and seen too much. Get a fence. Sounds like she was hoping he'd hurt himself so she could sue and get money to pay for his care. Or maybe the last 5 words of that sentence don't apply. She wanted him to be injured so that she could sue someone. Possibly not you specifically, but the owner of whatever property where he injured himself. Or maybe she needed some justification to put him in a home. If she couldn't get anyone to believe her that he was dangerous to himself, that may have been her last resort. Some people in the earliest stages of Alzheimer's can hold it together long enough to get through a 15-minute doctor visit. So the doctor concludes that the caretaker is exaggerating the patient's condition, particularly if the patient is male and the caretaker is female. Definitely call Adult Protective Services or whatever they call it by you. I would also call the cops for a welfare check every time you see him wandering. With enough police reports, he should get put into a care home for his own safety. Get a no trespassing placed on them. Only for the sake of your liability, because she seems like a person who might try to sue you. Your kindness in understanding the heartache and irrational behavior that comes with such a terrible disease speaks volumes of your caring heart. But you must protect yourself and your family. Trespass both of them immediately. Then try for a restraining order, as they are both a danger to you and themselves. Lastly, motion alarms so you know the moment they cross onto your property. Yes. Build a fence if you can afford it immediately, otherwise call the police if your neighbor won't remove him. She will sue you by her attitude alone. You may want to have a lawyer send a cease and desist letter telling her to keep her husband off your property, and if she persists in allowing him to wander your property, that you won't be liable for injury as he's trespassing. I am not a lawyer, so the lawyer would have to advise you on the specifics. You might also contact Adult Protective Services in your area, as it's obvious she's not taking care of him properly. Build a fence and give her the bill. My Phil had early onset dementia and would walk out the door when you weren't watching and get lost. He started wandering out at night also. So we installed a child lock that was hard to open unless you were shown how to unlock it. This woman is being extremely neglectful. Thank you for looking out for him. NGL, I wouldn't want to become an anchor dragging my loved ones down like this guy is to his wife. Not the asshole. Neighbor is for trying to call the cops. I feel bad for your neighbor having to become a caretaker at a pretty young age. But that is definitely not your problem, and the husband is not your responsibility. A call to Adult Protective Services is a great start, and maybe call to your insurance company and let them know what's going on. If the husband hurts himself on your property, what's to stop the wife from suing you? Also, if you can afford it, put up a fence ASAP. Not the asshole. Yes, install a fence with a good lock and a few extra cameras just to be safe. She's looking for a payday. Report her negligence ASAP. Be prepared for the incoming civil suit. This is a call to Adult Protective Services. He is a vulnerable adult in her care and she is neglecting him. You need to take action other than installing a fence. It seems like she wanted him to get hurt on your property so she could sue. Your surveillance cameras saved the day. A call to senior services is definitely in order. A fence, if you want one and can afford one, wouldn't be bad either. Tell her anytime you see him outside unattended you are calling 911 for an ambulance for a person acting erratically. They will transport him to hospital for evaluation. Hopefully he will get some help and she can enjoy some medical bills. Install a fence. Call the cops whenever he is on your property, not to have him arrested, but for a paper trail. And call protective services on her for letting him wander and hurt himself. Call APS ASAP with your security camera footage. I'm assuming you have quite a bit of proof of this disgusting woman letting her less than able husband wander the roads and yards of other people. This poor man is not being taken care of properly, and he needs to be in a safe, supervised environment where he can truly be made comfortable until he passes. APS can do that. You have the proof. You just have to make the call. You probably won't be updated on the husband post-removal, but we know he truly isn't safe where he is. The police are mandated reporters, I believe, but I'm not sure if they actually report. So it's up to you. Press trespassing charges. It happened on your property. You don't want them to make an insurance claim against you. Get a locking fence. Make sure the cameras record your whole yard. Call Adult Protection Services. If it's gotten this bad and they are blaming you, you need to take these steps to protect yourself. You must call social services for adult elder care. She is being neglectful. This can turn into something tragic that will also put others at risk, financially or emotionally. What if a child witnesses him seriously injuring himself or she files suits against neighbors? Even if you win, you often lose money on lawyers, your time you put into fighting it. They will help her with resources she needs. APS for step-grandmother had severe Alzheimer's and she was a runner, and one time she got out and was found by a neighbor walking down the road by herself. APS was called and basically told her husband he has to put locks up or it would be on his head if she keeps getting out. Could also be looking for a liability payout, especially since she did nothing to stop him and immediately started trying to document that you're at fault using the police. She's waiting to find a way to make money off of you. You're not wrong, but your neighbor is going through a lot of stress and it's easier for her to blame you than take responsibility for this. Call Adult Protective Services. If you can afford it and it seems feasible, put up a fence at least on the side between your two houses. Document all police reports and anything that you may have to give the courts if something happens on your property. It sucks, but people are sue happy, and I can see her suing you if something happens to him. Install a fence with a locked gate. Sure she doesn't have dementia as well? Call Adult Protective Services. There are resources out there to help them. And get a fence. I'm trying to understand why she came over and didn't intervene at all. Just watched him? That's so wrong. Install a fence and call social services. Your neighbor is either dangerously oblivious or trying to make a claim to sue you for liability. Put up no trespassing signs. Call cops the moment he steps on your property. You definitely need to call Adult Protective Services. They will hopefully at least direct them to possible caregivers for his own safety, and if she's burnt out, will recommend help for that. It concerns me that she just stood by watching and then only reacted when the inevitable happened. You might consider installing a fence, but if he's climbing sheds, I don't know how much that will help, as he's probably just going to climb over the fence. You're already doing things right by having cameras up, but I would just document everything to CYA at this point. Sounds like she wants him to become unalive and is setting up a case it was an accident on someone else's property and she's blameless. I'd call for a welfare check. Not defending this woman, but I promise she's working on her last nerve. I don't know why some people get aggressive when they're feeling desperate and helpless. How sad for her husband. And sorry this happened to you. There's a good chance calling adult protection will make this all worse for the man. Info: what is currently dividing your two gardens? Good thing you don't have a pool and she doesn't have kids. Look up attractive nuisance. Yes, install a fence. She can't be trusted to not sue you. Protect yourself any way you can. I feel like she wanted something to happen so she could sue. Maybe she's looking for money so she can put him in a home. Save your footage. Put up a fence. And call police every time there's trespassing. Wasn't he trespassing on your property? The shed would not be considered an attractive nuisance like a pool. I don't think the neighbor will get much or far in their case should they choose to file. Agree with what others have suggested. Save the recording. Get a fence with a lock. Contact APS. Good luck. She's working on a lawsuit, and there's a good chance you will lose. Install a fence. And if you see him on your property, call the police immediately. She is likely going to try to sue you. I would speak to a lawyer as soon as possible. And definitely report to Adult Protective Services. She just stood there waiting for the accident to happen? Why didn't she use that phone a little earlier and call for help if she didn't know what to do? That's just insane. If my limited experience with people with dementia and are hurt so can't move about is anything to go by. If he's prone to rage frustration, the next few weeks, months are probably going to be even worse for the caregiver too. She just stood there waiting for the accident to happen? Why didn't she use that phone a little earlier and call for help if she didn't know what to do? That's just insane. If my limited experience with people with dementia and are hurt so can't move about is anything to go by. If he's prone to rage frustration, the next few weeks, months are probably going to be even worse for the caregiver too. Put up the fence. Call Adult Protective Services. You need a fence with a lock if you are in the States. She can sue you for a lot of money. If someone gets hurt on your property and you do not have a fence, you are liable. Probably your homeowner's insurance would pay for it, but they might drop you later. I would write a certified letter informing that, due to the unpredictable actions of the residents of their home, they do not have permission to be on your property. I have zero idea if that means anything legally. If anything else should happen. But it should. My guess is that this woman gets no sleep, and honestly being able to control a man who is in his 50s with dementia is no easy task. He is still able-bodied, so unless he is in a locked house at all times and is unable to undo the locks, then will get out and roam. Private insurance. Nor Medicare will pay for a nursing home for long-term care, which is what this man needs. And so this family will need to self-fund his stay at a memory care unit to keep him safe. My guess is that this woman is doing the best she can with very little resources and just lost her cool. Perhaps you could give her some grace? Get some motion-activated sprinklers. Your homeowner's insurance is still liable and will pay him if he or you reports the incident. Welcome to homeownership. Apart from actually neglecting the poor man and risking his life, it sounds like she is hoping he meets his demise on your property so she could make a buck off it. And you all the while hoping her burden ends. Not the asshole. Call Protective Services ASAP. Well damn. It's not like you dragged him up there and shoved him off. Well damn. It's not like you dragged him up there and shoved him off. You may be legally responsible for injuries happening on your property. I know a real piece of shit guy who sued his employer for falling in the shower at work and walked away with $1 million. There was no crazy hazard or anything. He just found a way to work the system. Property liabilities can work the same way. She may be gearing up to get rich. I would definitely get a land survey and a fence. If it's financially viable, build a fence. Dementia in his 50s? This is rare. Are they alcoholics? Nah, install a slide of the shed. More fun, less jumping, hurting legs. Good fences make for good neighbors. Just be like a duck in water. Let it roll off. Some people seems more common these days have real anger issues. Maybe she is very frustrated with her situation and is just lashing out at everyone. Doesn't make it right, but no need to add kindling to the fire. Harassment warning. Depending on your location, she can sue you and win. He was hurt on your property. Please install a fence. Please call Adult Services. Report this to APS Adult Protective Services. She obviously won't care for him in the way he needs. And he could end up seriously injuring himself due to her negligence. Sounds like she wanted to sue you. Wanted enough money to pay for full-time care so she doesn't have to do it. It may not be entitlement, but someone in over their head who needs help. Call Adult Services. If he is in hospital, call the social services office at the hospital. They need help. She cannot care for him alone and he needs to move to a memory care unit, or perhaps someone can move in and help at home. Please call the hospital or adult social services. Yes op, definitely install a fence. Your neighbor is a poss. I feel really bad for the husband. She is looking for an insurance payout. Secure your property and install cameras. He's only 50 and he has dementia? I'd call someone for him. She can't just let him wander around with dementia. That's insane. I believe it though, unfortunately. A couple of things. Fences do make good neighbors. I wonder if she has taken out a life insurance policy yet? She may be setting him up for an accident. I hope she doesn't send him out for a walk on a busy highway. I think you really need to call social services for him. If she is refusing to adequately supervise him, then he is always in danger. Also, whenever you see him wander out of his yard, call the police. Non-emergency. Not her. This will at least get this on the record if she tries to come at you again. Put no trespassing signs on your yard, especially on their side, on both back and front. So if anything happens, you can't get sued. Call your home insurance company, as they can assist you in case this woman decides to sue. The next time you see him wandering in your yard, call the police. She did it. You do it. It's only fair that they keep getting involved with her negligence over his care. Sooner or later, someone will have to be taken to task over it, and it sure as hell ought not be you. Do they have kids you've met and can contact? Otherwise, I would call Adult Protective Services as recommended by others. She's hoping he'll hurt himself badly or get himself dead on your property so she can sue. Yup, call Adult Protective Services, or whatever your local equivalent is. I would install a fence. You already have security cameras. So that's a good thing. Let the woman know that if you find her husband unattended on your property again, you're calling social services. I hope you called your insurance company. If not, you need to. I think a fence would be the first thing. Hopefully that is all that is needed. For what it's worth, whatever is wrong with the husband, there's clearly something else wrong with the wife. Wow. I am an aged care worker in Australia, and this situation definitely needs to be addressed by appropriate authorities. 100 Not your fault, by the way. You are not his carer. It does sound like they both need support measures put in place for his safety and for her to get additional support she sounds like she needs. She is being negligent, and to blame you is not right at all. And yes, document everything you see and hear. Sounds like she's trying to get a payout. Family member is responsible for the person with dementia. Please report this woman. It looks like she wants to be relieved of the burden of caring for her husband while cashing in at the same time. A convenient accident on your property will suit her just fine. She will try it again. Restraining order for both of them. Get a fence. This feels like her looking for an insurance payout. Preserve that footage in case she tries to sue. You got homeowners insurance? Call APS. You can report anonymously. This is not your responsibility. Call Lee non-emergency line every single time. The wife may not know what services are available or know where to go for assistance. The more that neighbors help, the more responsibility they end up taking on. Call the county APS referral line. They will investigate, provide information resources to the wife. APS investigator. I have a sneaky feeling she is allowing her husband to wander for the exact reason that you just said. She wants him to get hurt on someone else's property so she can sue and put him in a home. It might be the only way she could afford a care home, and she clearly doesn't look after him. Considering she leaves him to wander, and she just stood there watching him climb on your shed and fall. It sounds very suspicious to me, and believe me, I have seen what family will do to put someone in a home. My husband had younger onset dementia, and I was his carer. It's very hard looking after someone with dementia. I had to watch him like a hawk all the time. Until it got too bad and it became unsafe for both of us for him to stay home. I couldn't imagine just letting him wander off on his own, day or night. For the husband's sake, please call Adult Protective Services. He could get seriously hurt. But worse, he could hurt someone else without knowing what he's doing. Dementia does truly awful things to people. Elder abuse. Call the appropriate people to report this. Cause neglect is a form of elder abuse. Thank God you had CCTV. The nerve of that woman. Get cameras for your property to record whenever he wanders onto it. As soon as he does, immediately call the cops. More paper trail and report her for elder abuse for not supervising him. Also, report her for trespassing when she comes onto your property if she does to retrieve him. Because she should be watching out for him, and it should have never got to that point. Yeah, please call Protective Services. That's neglect and needs to be reported. Sounds like she's trying to blame you because he got injured on your property. Perhaps because most homeowners insurance pay if someone gets injured on your property. I would seriously consider putting up that fence and a lot of no trespassing signs. Call police with a confused and lost person. She's looking for a payday. I feel very sorry for that poor man. Report her as she is negligent. There are laws about this. I would recommend doing some research. I'm just wondering why she would call the police and not an ambulance. What did she expect the police to actually do? They wouldn't come out for this as in the UK. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that someone as young as in their 50s has dementia already. And that bad too. That seems like something that comes on in the 70s or later. Get a fence. She could have filed a claim against your property insurance. I speak from experience. I would add a better fence. Now that you know he's getting in your yard and can get hurt. It's BS, but people have lost lawsuits because of stuff like this. I think you should put up a fence to protect yourself and him as well. Maybe you can press charges for trespassing, especially if the husband does that repeatedly. The sad thing about somebody hurting themselves on your property is that even if you're not at fault, even if it's somebody trying to steal stuff from your house, your insurance company would have to pay out. Call APS. That poor man is unsafe with his entitled, weird wife. I also would recommend putting a fence in so he doesn't have easy access to your yard. Good luck. Sounds like she was hopeful he would die, just saying. So, I guess your first mistake was calling for his wife as opposed to 911 for first responder assistance. Don't make that mistake again. The wife is obviously looking for someone to blame and possibly to make some money in a settlement. At least the police are now on notice. Don't be afraid to call them for anything related to these neighbors. So sorry you had to deal with that. Calling your integrity into question, etc. Just outrageous. She's waiting for him to get seriously hurt, possibly get killed. She lets him wander around. She's looking for an easy way out and potentially sue someone for his death. It sounds like there is nothing preventing this from happening again, so I would recommend a fence with a locking gate, or a gate that is difficult to open so he can't figure it out. Sounds like she was hoping to sue your homeowner's insurance? I always see the worst in people, so I assume she actually wants her husband to wander and get hurt, so she can sue someone for an easy paycheck. Actually, you need to call Adult Protective Services in your area and report her. Time to get a tall, sturdy fence. The entitled neighbor is sure to make an insurance claim on you. Keep the video safe and get the police report ASAP. There's some really good advice here, but I would definitely build a fence so he has no way of getting into your property. Eliminate the risk of being sued by that lady, who seems to be looking to do just that. Good luck. I'm 31 and older people to me are just so unexplainably arrogant, lazy, self-centered bitches anymore. For the generation that pretty much raised mine on toughen up and deal with it, and be responsible for yourself. They sure do cry a lot when it comes time for them to have some personal responsibility for their shitty choices. Fence immediately if possible. Maybe she's also starting to suffer dementia. She definitely shouldn't be his caretaker either way. You need to contact Adult Protective Services and let them know the situation that's been going on, and that your neighbor is neglecting her husband. That woman is waiting for her husband to have an accident with a deadly outcome. Betty's worth more dead than alive. SMH. You need to call Adult Protective Services and report them. Also, show them the video. Tell APS there is a vulnerable unsupervised dementia patient next door. She didn't stop him BC, she knew he'd get hurt. Sue your homeowners at his expense. Call the police main line to report criminal medical neglect every time it happens.